Lost Art with Andrew Cox, retired Master Gunnery Sergeant. thelostart.podbean.com. Get some merchandise and help support the podcast in getting our veteran voices out for all to hear. Now on all major podcast platforms. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Be a guest, tell your veteran story, discuss your veteran business or organization. Email The Lost Art with Andrew Cox at gmail.com. Andrew Cox, a Till Valhalla Project Ambassador. See the project story at tillvalhallaproject.com. Thanks for tuning in. Please enjoy the podcast that's giving a voice to our veterans. The Lost Art with Andrew Cox.
Today's episode is brought to you by TrumpShirt.com. TrumpShirt.com is a veteran-owned business where 100% of the proceeds goes to disabled veterans and veteran organizations. Support your veterans by purchasing a shirt at TrumpShirt.com. Use the promo code TLA and get free shipping. That's TrumpShirt.com, promo code TLA.
Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Lost Art Podcast, that podcast giving a voice to our veterans. I'm your host, Andrew Cox, and today we'll be having a My Veteran Story with Robert Wiggs. But first, I want to give a big shout out to the Till Valhalla Project and all the awesome work they're doing honoring our fallen heroes. I encourage you to visit their website, tillvalhallaproject.com, and see what they're all about. Also, don't forget to go visit the Lost Art website. That's the lostart.podbean.com. Go check it out, see what's going on there. And also click on that merchandise tab. Go get you some cool gear to help support the podcast and getting our veteran voices out for all to hear. To all the listeners, thanks for tuning in. Much appreciated. I can't believe how much support we're getting from you guys. So please, thank you, and just keep on supporting us and help us getting our veteran voices out.
FSSG4, the unit I was with, we flew in, and the grunts from the 11th MEU had hit the beach. They hit the beach on the 9th of December when we flew in on the 10th. So we were there right behind them. And some of the guys I talked to, because they had taken the port and they had spent the night, well, in the big warehouse where they ended up putting a lot of the people, especially the Army was in there too. It was nothing but sheep shit and animal. Just all kinds. And Marines slept in there overnight, got diphtheria overnight, just staying there overnight. It was so nasty. But no, they said there was so many news cameras on the beach that they couldn't even get onto the beach because of the news people when they were trying to hit the beach. And but then then we end up marrying up with them, and then basically once we came down and took over the port, then they left. And they left there and went up to the airport, and then we took over the airport and took over the stadium, which is when Black Hawk Down was where the soccer stadium was. Right. I was with them when we took over the embassy, but I mean there was hundreds of thousands that had died, and they were only burying them 18 inches under the ground. I mean, the stench, and it'd be 110 degrees by 9 o'clock in the morning. I mean, it was just hot as hell. And it was really weird because show you how third world country this place was. There was these dome hooches right across the little dirt path from the cemeteries. And those were leopard colonies. People still had leprosy. I'm like, what? That's the stuff you read about in the Bible. Yeah,
no kidding.
They were that far back. And I mean, General Adid, his compounds would have electricity, and that was very scarce. Other than that, there was no electricity in the whole country. And and Mogadishu was one of the cities that was actually had some technology and stuff, and Belladego, Baidoa, Kismayu down south, none of them had that. And it was wild to the point. And I'll never forget, we were flying over, and this one guy, he was from Detroit, and a black guy is from Detroit. And well, when I was in the Marine Corps, he was either light green or dark green, but everybody was green. Then near when I got ready to retire, they said, "Oh, you can't say that anymore. That
Mm-hmm.
no, you can't do that." I'm like, "What?" And so what happened was, we're sitting there talking. This guy, he goes, "Man, we're going to the motherland." I said, "What are you talking?" He goes, "Man, we're going to Africa." So then we get over there and we land. I run into him a couple of days later. I said, "Hey, man, how's the motherland?" He goes, "Man, screw this damn place. I'm from Detroit." He's, oh, he was, he said, "The hell with that." But I mean, it, in the first 3.5 weeks, we didn't have showers.
Oh
And I
yeah.
mean, but the good thing was, I mean, we all stunk. So I
Yeah.
mean, there was no wash. I mean, you did a freaking water buffalo freaking bath, but I mean, other than that, and that wasn't good. But and then about 3.5 weeks into it is when the Seabees came in, and
Okay.
they brought in shower units, and well, then you had your 2 minute shower. They turned the water on for 1 minute, you
Yeah.
get wet, then they turn it off, you soap up, and then they turn it on for one more minute. And
Nice.
this day, my wife, I mean, I could take a shower in 3 minutes and I'm out. I ain't no
Yeah.
40-minute shower guy, but no, that, and then just finally got to the point we turned it over to the Army, and then from
Yeah.
there it was, but I mean, all the clan, none of them, they didn't wear any Army uniforms, so we
Mm-hmm.
couldn't disseminate what clan who was good, or well, there really wasn't too many of them good, but there was, you could tell some of them that were worse, were more bad than good. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was, and little kids were 8, 9, 7, 8, 9-year-old kids were toting AK-47s, and you didn't, because their
Wow.
parents died in the Civil War right before
Mm-hmm.
we got there, but everybody was over there. I mean, the the French Foreign Legion, they were the
Mm-hmm.
first ones we ran into over there. Them and the Italians, and the French Foreign Legion, they basically did whatever the hell they wanted, because I mean, they
Yeah.
were mercenaries. And
Yeah.
there was two guys that we ran into that they were American citizens. One of them was convicted of first degree murder and escaped, and then went to France and joined the Legion. And the other guy was going up for charges of first degree murder, and he escaped and went. And
Wow.
but yeah, and to tell you the truth, you can join the French Foreign Legion all the way up to age 55. As
No
long as you make it
kidding.
through, as long as you make it through their training, they don't give a hoot. And
Wow.
but it was pretty wild. And uh then we ran into the Belgians, which I don't know why they were over there, because Africans, they couldn't stand them. And
Yeah.
well, the and that was the only time in U.S. history that a sitting president, which was Clinton at that time, put us under UN command.
Mm.
It was in '93, and
Yeah.
well, the the UN troops, they were worthless. I mean, they had the light blue helmets, but as soon as rounds were coming down
Mm-hmm.
range, man, you never seen any of them guys. And most of them were Pakistani or from India, and
Yeah.
the chevron wasn't even sewn on. They were just had a safety pin holding their chevrons on.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, it was that, and they had old
Wow.
decadent weapons, but yeah, it was
Mm-hmm.
pretty wild seeing. And these Belgium guys, they wanted them to go down to Kismayu, which it was right after Desert Storm 1. We were at 275,000,
Mm-hmm.
and Clinton was cutting us back to
Yep.
174,000. So we lost 101,000 Marines in
Mm-hmm.
3 years. And basically, if you were a sergeant and you got in trouble as a private, you were gone. They were
Yeah.
looking to find anything under the sun to put you out. And a lot of good
Wow.
Marines, man. I couldn't believe it. A lot of good Marines, man, end up not letting them stay. And
Yeah.
So no, they did that, and then and I got passed for staff sergeant, and it turned out it was because
Mm-hmm.
one warrant officer I worked for, he was going to Desert Storm 1. He had us sign blank fitness reports, and then he was going to finish them up in over there. And he said, and he'd bring us in. He said, "Well, this is what I'm going to put on it." Well, what he told me and what he put on it was two different stories. I mean, basically, the write up was like
Wow.
it should have been a double signed fitness report, but I didn't sign it
Uh-huh.
twice. So, and one of the best officers I worked for, it was in Somalia, was a guy, Lieutenant Colonel R.M. Nixon. And when I
Okay.
first met him, I said, he goes, yeah, it was, his name was Richard Milhouse Nixon, just like the president. And I said, "Is
Yeah.
there any relation?" He said, "No, no, no." He said, "But my parents thought that he was one of the best presidents in the history of the United States, so they named me after
So,
him." And and
oh, that's wild.
he was an Annapolis grad, and I mean, I'd worked for a handful of Annapolis grads before, and they just prima donnas, but this guy wasn't that way. Really good guy, really down to earth, and that Lieutenant Colonel Nixon, he said, "Man, too bad you signed that fitness report twice." And I said, "I didn't sign no fitness report twice. I'd never gotten a bad fitness report." And so he goes, "Hey, I got some strings in DC, man. I'll call and get you promoted." And I told him, I said, "I'd rather get promoted because I got promoted, not because somebody pulled some strings and got me promoted." But
Yeah.
he did help me submit my package for through Naval Board of Corrections,
Mm-hmm.
which ended up getting it changed, and then I ended up went back in for reconsideration, and then I ended up getting selected for staff sergeant. And
Yeah.
then from that point, I got all the way up, and I retired as a gunny. But
Yeah.
no, I was a senior gunny in crash crew in the Marine Corps and I got passed for mass sergeant because when I first got back to the fleet after recruiting duty, I went on recruiting duty in 96 to 99. And that was an experience in itself. That was probably the hardest job I'd ever done in the Marine Corps, but it was the most self gratifying because
Yeah.
out there, you either made it or you didn't make it. And
Right.
I mean, we made mission 36 of the 35 months straight when I was out there on
Wow.
recruiting. And
That's awesome.
but then I mean, it ain't like now. I talk to these recruiters now. I mean, they don't even work weekends now. And when I was out
What?
there, when I was out there, they June of '96, I got off one day for that whole month. Other than that,
Wow.
but the other branch services, it was like a 9 to 5 job. And
Mm-hmm.
but the Marine Corps, I mean, you couldn't. I don't know how it is now, but they probably changed it now. But out there, they gave you 3 years, and
Yeah.
if you failed as a recruiter, you wasn't coming back to the fleet. They'd sent you packing, and
Wow.
so failure was not an option. But
That's one of the reasons I think that the Marine Corps has made mission almost every single year, if I'm not mistaken. Uh, when other services don't necessarily make mission is because we'll be working the whole time,
oh yeah,
day in, day out, every day of the week, doesn't matter. They're out there hooking and jabbing, trying to get it done.
I tell you another podcast that future aspect. I don't know if you because there was a bunch of us that when we were on recruiting duty, the stories on
Uh-huh.
recruiting duty is just oh my gosh. Um, and a bunch of us were going to get together and write a book of just
Yeah.
stories from stuff from recruiting duty. And
Uh-huh.
I mean, don't use no names of people, but I mean, some of this, oh my gosh. some of the stuff out there. It's just now it's funnier than hell. But I mean, I only missed mission 1 month. I was out there,
Yeah.
and that was when they transferred me from Columbia, Missouri to Salina, Kansas. And the guy that
Mhm.
went in and took my spot in Columbia, he was from Moberly, which was about an hour and a half north from where we were. So I mean, he was recruited out of that office. And
Mhm.
3 weeks after, he got killed in a car accident.
Oh,
And so
wow.
that month we didn't make mission. And I mean, the CO at that time, he told us, "Hey, if if you ain't made mission yet, you can't even go to the funeral." And
What?
and then the sergeant major, he called the dad up, and because the funeral was going to be on Saturday. Well, we had
Yeah.
Saturday processing, so he called the dad up and said, "Hey, there's a lot of Marine recruiters that really want to make it to his funeral. Is there any way you can move his funeral to Sunday? So, because we got Saturday processing, then more Marines can go to his funeral." I mean, he asked the dad that. And the dad
Wow.
said, "You know what? I don't give 10 shits if any of your people come to his funeral. I'm burying my son on Saturday, and I don't care if any of you guys show up." Which there was a big group of us that did show up. But I mean,
Yeah.
that was the freaking mentality of it out
Wow.
there. Um,
That is messed
at
up.
that time, my wife, my ex-wife, is my boy's mom. She she attempted. She said she was going to kill herself while we were
Mhm.
separated, and she had my boys. So they went out. The sheriff's department went out there and took her into custody because they didn't want her killing. And then my kids come home from school. Well,
Yeah.
I told my sergeant major, same sergeant major, called him up
Mhm.
and I said, "Hey, sergeant major, I need to take a week of emergency leave or something," because I told him the whole situation. And they knew they knew the situation between me and my ex-wife. And first thing came out of his mouth, "Did you make mission yet?" I said, "What?"
Oh God.
He goes, "Yeah, did you make mission yet?" I said, "Right now, that's the least of my worries. I got a 12-year-old and 13-year-old kids. I got to take care of them." He goes, "Well, as soon as you make mission, you give me a call back, and then we'll go ahead and give you a emergency leave for a week." I mean,
Oh my God.
I mean, it was make a mission at no cost. I mean, just like General Mundy, and this is probably way before your time, but
Yeah.
um, General Mundy, he put his foot in his mouth one time and said, "Hey, if the Marine Corps, just like they used to tell us in the grunts,
Mhm.
um, if the Marine Corps wanted you to have a wife, we'd have issued you one."
Yeah.
And he said, "So we're just gonna really shoot for not enlisting any married guys."
Yeah.
Yeah, that didn't last. I think it was 2 or 3 months. They said, "No, that ain't right." So they ended up
Uh-huh.
changing that. But oh yeah, it was pretty wild, to the point of,
Man,
I
that
mean,
was
through the years of seeing different, different aspects of the Marine
yeah.
Corps, how but it changed, but didn't really change. Even
Yeah.
probably some of the stuff we were doing back when I was still in, you were probably still doing a
Yeah,
year ago
probably.
when you were still in.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of the uniforms changed, but yeah, the mentality rate didn't. But
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, that's what I'm saying, to the point of maybe you ought to have a podcast maybe in the future of
Yeah.
try to get recruiters to come
Yeah.
on and
Just
just talk about some of I mean, because one of I guess, and I only say one story about when I was on recruiting duty, but it was the funniest one I went to. And this was in 97 down Lake of
okay.
the Ozarks. And I mean, looking at the house, I mean, it looked normal, you know.
Yeah.
And we went in there and we talked to this kid, and we got in there and the floors were dirt.
What?
Yes. It had dirt floors. I mean,
Wow.
they had throw rugs, but I mean, the floors were dirt. And so we're sitting there, and the kid's sitting right in front of me, and it was me, my RI, which me and him, he only lives an hour south of me. We talk all the time. And then he was the assistant recruiter instructor then. And then the RI, which he's up in, I think lives up in Chicago, I think now. But all
Mm-hmm.
three of us were there. And the kids sitting here, and behind them, you could see into the kitchen. Well, you could see a pot, a big old one of them big canning pots, and steam was
Mm-hmm.
coming out. So it was cooking something. And we're sitting there, and he was babysitting his twin brothers. They were still in diapers. And we're
Yeah.
sitting and talking to him and everything. And then it gets down to the point, you ask him, is he ready to be a Marine? And he goes, well, and this whole time when we're talking to him, these two kids in the background, I think they were 18 months old, something like that. They had gotten one of them little step stools up to
Mm-hmm.
the stove,
Oh
and
no.
they stepped up and they were looking in the pot, and they were digging in their diaper, and they were flicking it in the pan. And we're just sitting there like, what in the? So finally, we
What?
sat there. We said, "Hey, so are you ready to be a Marine?" He goes, "Well, I really like what y'all showing me, but I think I'm gonna stay right here." And I was like, "Damn, dude, aren't these dirt floors?" He goes, "Yeah, but my Paul says we're getting wooden floors next year." And it was like, okay, and then like, but hey, no hard
Wow.
feelings. We're making a whole mess of chili, and you guys are more than happy to stay for dinner, and that's what the kids were. We're like, yeah, we got another appointment. We got.
I got
But man,
anything else but this?
oh my gosh, they're just some of the stories. It just, oh my gosh, it'll have you freaking roll.
Wow.
And but no, and then they wanted me to stay on recruiting duty, and put in for career recruiter,
Mm-hmm.
and I was in Salina, and when I took over Salina, Kansas, there was only two of us out there. We covered 29,000 square miles, only two of us. And I had four high
Wow.
school. I was NYC on production, so I was NYC. Plus,
Wow.
I still had to write contracts, and which the majority of our work was on the road. I mean, I
Yeah.
had four high schools. It took me 6 hours one way to drive to the school. But when I first got there, they hadn't written a contract in 6 months, and they hadn't made mission in 9 months. And
Wow.
and then when I got ready to leave, we made 11 out of the 12 months that we were out there. And the
Yeah.
last month, we wrote like 250% of what our mission was. Well, my CO, he didn't want me to leave because they had
Yeah.
never had anybody making it. He goes, "Hey, Wiggs." Hey, at that time, I was a gunny. And he goes, "Hey, Gunny Wiggs, man, you sure you can't just stick around for another 3 months?" Because he wanted me to stick as long. He only had 3 months left on recruiting duty
Oh yeah,
as the
yeah, yeah.
CO. So he goes, "Can't you just stick another 3 months?" And I said, "No, I don't think so, sir." And he goes, "Come on, man, you can't think about it." I said, "Well, just a second, sir." Yeah, I thought about it. I don't think so. And because out there on recruiting duty, I mean, it ain't like anywhere else in the Marine Corps. I mean,
Yeah.
there is no rank out there. If you're
Yeah.
making mission, you're golden. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you're a sergeant making mission and you're a gunny not making mission,
Oh
gunny, you're
yeah.
a piece of crap. And
Mm-hmm.
so so finally, now it gets about, I got about a month and a half left. My kids are living in Kansas City, 3.5 hours away. I said, you know what? Maybe I should just stick, because my kids. So I called my CO and I said, "Hey, sir, I thought about it. Yeah, I will go ahead and stick." He's like, "Man, I don't think so." I'm like, oh.
Oh.
And he goes, "Well, hold it. Let me think about it for a second." No, no. I was like, oh, here I told that
He
guy.
dished it right back to you.
So the CO over Ninth Marine Corps recruiting district was a guy named Colonel Donahue, which I knew him. I met him quite a few times.
Yeah.
And next time, no, when he first took over the ninth, he got every recruiter in CYC, everybody in the ninth district was on conference call. And he goes, boys, I'm gonna tell you right now, you miss mission the first month, I'm gonna FedEx you an autographed baseball because that's your strike one. You miss it a second time, I'm gonna send you another baseball. He goes, but if you miss mission the third time, he said, boys, I'm gonna tell you, don't even put your uniforms in the cleaners. And but I mean, the guy was cool as shit, but he expected you to freaking do your job.
Yeah.
And but he next thing I know, after my CO told me, nah, man, it ain't happening. I get a phone call. And who is it? It's Colonel Donahue.
Yeah.
And he goes, Wiggs, little birdie tells me that now you want to stay on recruiting duty. I said, yes, sir. I said, my sons, they live in Grandview, Missouri. And, goes, well, I understand that. He goes, but you're not staying in Kansas City, though. I said, oh, okay. Where do you want to send me? He goes, well, I'm going to send you to Grand Island, Nebraska. I'm like, well, where's that? And he goes, well, hey, I want you to call up and talk to Major King, which is the CO up there in Nebraska and Iowa. And so I called up and I talked to him and everything. And it turned out it was Grand Island, Nebraska. It was a 2-man fighting hole in the NCYC. And then North Platte, Nebraska was 3 hours west. And there was one guy, 1-man fighting hole. And that guy,
Holy cow.
he got meritoriously promoted to staff sergeant and then popped the pack. He was done.
Yeah.
So I was gonna basically I'd been better off just to live in North Platte because I was gonna have to camp out in that guy's deal. So I was like, I don't think so. Because they covered from just south of Lincoln, southwest of Lincoln, all the way to freaking Wyoming.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it nothing but well, before I had 29,000 square miles. Up there, I was going to have 40,000 square miles. And I was
my
like,
God.
So I called Colonel Donahue back and I said, man, I don't think so, sir. He goes, yeah, but you, because at that time I already got orders. I was already stationed in Beaufort, South Carolina, for 2 years.
Yeah.
Then I went on recruiting duty, and then I had a successful tour to ask where I wanted to go. And I said, I was coast to coast, and I liked Beaufort. It was really, I mean, it's hot as hell, but I did like the area. So I said, well, I'll go back to Beaufort. Now here I'd already got orders, and Colonel Donahue, I said, well, sir, I don't think so. I got orders already to Beaufort, South Carolina. And he goes, oh, I can get that changed. I said, well, sir, up there. He goes, yeah, but look at it this way. You want to be 3.5 hours, 4 hours from your kids, or 18 hours away? They're using that grip on you. And finally I said, no, I end up going back to the fleet, and which I was glad I did because, well, if I would have stayed, I'd easily probably made master guns. But it really wasn't about the money. It was just, my main deal as a crash crew guy, you always want to be a section leader. And I was over 40 guys when I went back, and they were my troops. I got to take care of them the way I wanted it, instead of being like some of the NCYCs or staff and COICs that did. You froze up again. You there?
And are you there?
Yep.
I'm sorry. Right?
No, you're
It's
fine,
driving
man.
me insane, man.
But
now I have to go back to my iPad. Between the two
once
of them, I'm going to get it to work.
Now, once I got back to the fleet, then I got my own section, and I got to take care of my the guys the way I wanted to, and which was good on that aspect. But I ended up, I had 2 back surgeries right at the end of the last 2 years I was in, and
Wow.
I used to tell my troops all the time, there's a point in time where it's your time to go.
Yeah.
And the day you step over that line, your life is going to just go to shit. And but no, it was my time to go. I miss it every day though. I
Yeah.
mean, I tell guys I run into vets all the time because me and my wife's got a craft business, and I do a lot of military plaques and all kinds of stuff, and veteran organizations, if they do like uh, silent auctions and stuff to raise money,
Yeah.
I make stuff and donate it and give it to them to see if they can raise some money.
Very
And
nice.
I don't know if the Till Valhalla Foundation, if they do the same thing. If they
They
do,
do what they call honor plaques, and so if there's a veteran that has passed away, whether that be through suicide or anything else, and not just veterans, but they also do like your police and firefighter and stuff like that as
right.
well. They do honor plaques, and they somebody hand delivers it to the family members. And that's
Those are the type plaques I make.
Oh, I see.
Um,
Okay, yeah,
because they started bringing the remains back from Pearl Harbor.
yeah,
And the first guy for the state of Missouri, he was from Mound City. It's about 2.5 hours north of here. He was a 19-year-old kid from the Navy. He was on the USS Oklahoma,
hmm
and I got to make the plaque where I've got lasers, so I laser portraits, everything.
Oh
So they
wow,
had a picture of him, and I lasered it onto the plaque, as well as he was on the USS Oklahoma. So I engraved the actual ship on the plaque,
yeah,
and then I was able to make it for the family, and I
hmm
donate it. I don't charge anything, and I've done now 6 of those plaques that they
very,
brought back from Pearl Harbor, as well as I ride with the Patriot
hmm
Guard riders,
yeah,
and and we'll come across vets like that we get in contact with families, and then I end up making the plaques for them. But
very nice.
it's the point of kind of giving some back. But
hmm
I tell guys all the time, they ask me all the time, do I miss it? Especially civilian people ask that,
Yeah,
and I said, yeah, I miss the lifestyle. I tell them, in reality, I don't miss the circus, but I do miss the clowns, and I miss the guys, man.
yeah,
Just and what's funny is the hurry up and wait.
hmm
That's what I liked about the Marine Corps, and the grunts seem to be a little bit more along that line than was in the wing, but the you still had to hurry up and wait, but the grunts you really had to hurry up and wait.
yeah,
And but we would sit around and talk about some of the stupid stuff.
yeah.
Back home, the best sandwiches back home, and I mean, just crazy stuff. I'll never forget. We had this one guy. He was from the hills of Maryland, which I didn't even know Maryland had hills until I ran into this guy. And we were talking about our favorite sandwiches back home. He goes, man, there ain't nothing like a pig ear sandwich. He's like, what? He goes, yeah, man, you just go up on that hog and just whack off that ear, man, sear it over the fire, boy, man. I was like, what? And he was
Wow,
serious. And I'm like, oh my God, I thought I'd heard everything. And oh yeah, and then hearing some of them suckers from Arkansas, and oh my gosh, some of that stuff is just it, and people go, man, and you remember all that stuff? And I said, oh yeah, just like boot camp. I mean,
yeah.
a lot of those guys, I still remember their names and all that, everything. And but there was only one drill instructor who used to choke the hell out of me every time I turn around. He was a tall, skinny black, and he was a band guy.
Was he really?
And yeah, his name was oh man, what Kane, Sergeant Kane was this guy's name. Tall,
Okay.
skinny black guy. And Man, I swore if I ever found that sucker, I was gonna choke the living hell out of him. But now I ended up running into my senior drill instructors. I had a Chinese senior, I had a Navajo Indian junior, had a white guy and a black guy.
No
And
kidding. Wow.
the white guy was a little short, built like a brick shit house,
Yeah.
and he the only time he's really pissed is when you heard him cuss. Other than that, he never cussed.
Yeah.
And but man, I swore him down. He hammered that cover on his head because he hit a guy, real tall guy, right in the chest with the brim of his campaign cover, and he knocked old boy clean over the foot lockers, and it didn't even move his cover. So I
Wow.
was like, damn, he even had it glued or something. But but oh yeah, it was. I tell people all the time, man, I wouldn't trade my worst day in the Marine Corps for all the money. It was a good
Yeah.
time. It really was. And then and when you get out, I tell all these guys, man, you better enjoy this life as long as you can enjoy it, because afterward, this is different.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to be like anything and you always set back. Oh man, I can't wait till I get out. And then when you get out, you're like, oh, I can't wait till you get it. I could have stayed in
Yeah.
and but it's I'm serious. I tell my boys all the time. I say, you know what? If I die today, it's been a hell of a run. And
Yeah.
but yeah, it was really good. But I mean, so you were a drill instructor?
I was. Yeah. I did that for 3 years. It was the best, worst 3 years of my life is the way I always say it.
That's the way recruiting was.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the
It was,
hardest job in the Marine Corps, but it was the most self gratifying.
yeah,
Because
absolutely.
if you didn't make it, I mean, sure. I mean, there was people. Uh, oh man, it was if you didn't make mission. I mean, hero to zero is a
Yeah.
lot of people. It's what it is, and a lot of people don't understand that. But because the last day of the month you could be the hero, and the first day of the month you're a zero,
Yeah.
and how you can be. I mean, they're praising you to death this month, and next month you're just a total. I mean, you're worst thing on the earth.
Yeah.
And on daily basis numbers because everybody was they'd fax all the numbers in,
Hmm.
and they would send it out showing who all was screwing up and wasn't pulling their end of the stick. So all
Oh
the other
yeah.
recruiters would call them, and they'd be getting browbeat by the recruiters that was doing it. And
Hmm.
it was the point there was no love or no sympathy for you not coming across. But I'm glad I did that though, because I mean it gave me a complete different perspective on things.
Oh, that is
But
true.
and
The individuals that I found that did a BBO, went out, did recruiting or drill instructor or something like that, they come back. It didn't matter what mission you told them to do. Like, hey, I need you to get X, Y, and Z done. It didn't matter what it was. Their ability to get it done far exceeds everybody else, just because of their mentality as they come back from such a stressful duty.
right, and that as well as I wouldn't. I think I developed more empathy
Mm-hmm.
from the being on recruiting duty than I don't have sympathy for people,
Yeah.
but the empathy of being able to put myself in their shoes and look at it from their perspective
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
tend to sharpen more. And then I finally finished my degree. I got a bachelor's degree in organizational leadership,
Mm-hmm.
but I finished it when I was 50.
Wow.
And then I said, well, man, I'll be able to get me a good job now, a better job now, because I'm, now I'm too old. I'm like, man, because when I first got out, they'd be sitting there interviewing me, and they said, man, we really like the 20 years of leadership management skills, but and here they're looking at my resume, they go, but do you have a degree? I'm
Yeah.
like, don't you think if I had a degree it'd be on paper? I said, no. They said, oh, we're gonna have to stop this now. I mean, you gotta have I said, but you just said you like the 20 years of leadership and management skill. Oh yeah, we do, but we want you to have a degree. And I mean, I did a lot of management after I retired, but I mean, I got so used to it, because every 3.5 years, if you want to go someplace else, you just raise your hand. And that's
Yeah.
the way I was. I was coast to coast 3 times.
Yeah.
And, but no, it still feels 21 years later like I'm fish out of water, because you just sit back and you like, well, now I'm retired to the point where with the back issues gotten worse, and I just do woodworking, laser
Yeah.
woodworking all day, and which is great because I got my dog and she's my sidekick. So,
Yeah.
but no, I mean it. Other than that, I mean it's definitely been a transition aspects for getting out to where I'm at now. And
Yeah.
I mean, it did take me some getting used to dealing with civilian people the way, because in the Marine Corps, of course, using the F word, that's like punctuation. You get out here and these people they hear you say that word one time, they look at you like you just smacked their mom.
Yeah.
And like, well, sorry about that. And that will now, and these people, they get so damn freaking feelings hurt just from
Oh
blinking
yeah.
their eyes. But no, it was some good times, man. It really was. Really some good times. I bet you hear some pretty wild stories.
Oh, there have been. Oh yeah. It is amazing the people that I've met, people that I've interviewed. It's just been wild. Some of the stories, and anything from telling stories being in Afghanistan, and one guy was telling a story. He was there, and it was just him and a small team, like 5 or 6 people, and they had come in. They just lived in the mountains, like they just drove around in the mountains up there, trying to find bad guys and kill them. And they were in the camp one time, and they had gotten hit. Mortars had come in, and some guy, basically got blown up, and he was looking around, and everybody from the small camp was out there trying to help out and everything. And he looked at his buddies. He's like, look, everybody's out here, let's go in the chow hall and get the food. There's nobody in there. So they all went in the chow hall. They still had blood on them and stuff, and they're over there eating and having a good old time, like nothing had happened. And I'm like, man, that's just like the mentality of somebody that's been over there and in that so often. It's just wild to hear stuff like that, and just boot camp stories, or just going on a deployment and hearing those types of stories. It's been really cool to hear the different sides of it, and all the different branches of service. The only ones that I haven't had on is Space Force. I haven't had anybody from Space Force on yet. But other than that, I'm pretty sure I've hit them all. So,
Coast Guard guys, or
yeah,
they call themselves, because we're here in the Midwest, you kind of get a group of like all kinds of people.
yeah,
A lot of Navy guys around here. I don't know why, because really ain't no water. And but Coast Guard, there'd be some Coast Guard guys. They call themselves coasties.
Toasties.
And
That's right.
yeah, I haven't ran across any Space Force guys yet, but I understand a lot of guys from the Marine Corps are getting out and freaking going over there.
Yeah,
And
Carol.
and even there was even 91 to 93 when they were really downsizing the Marine Corps. A bunch of them were getting out, or even a lot of recon or force recon guys were getting out of the Marine Corps and was going to the Air Force, because they get to go to the high speed, low drag schools, the
Mm,
high priced schools, where in the
yeah,
Marine Corps now. And what happened was the pararescue guys, the PJs is what they call
yeah.
them, that the Air Force, that was the only MOS they'd let the Marines go into. And if you
Really?
were in the Marine Corps longer than 4 years, oh no, you're not getting in the Air Force. And a buddy of mine I was in high school with, I didn't even know he joined the Marine Corps. He joined the Marine Corps a year before I did. But he got it. We kind of, our senior year, we went to 2 different schools,
Yeah.
and I didn't even know where. We kind of lost track of each other. And well, he got a hold of my mom, and said, "Hey, where's Bobby at?" Because when I was a kid, I was called Bobby. And she said, "Well, he's in boot camp for Marine Corps."
Yeah.
So, and turned out was my buddy was stationed at Camp Pendleton. And so he ended up coming down seeing me graduate.
Oh,
And
very cool.
but he was in the Marine Corps for 3 years, got out, and then got out, became a cop for Kansas City Police Department. Then after a couple of years, then he went and joined the Navy Reserves as
Okay.
a sergeant arms. And then he was in there for about 4 years. Then he got out. Then he went in the Air Force Reserves, and then he just retired as an E8 from the Air Force Reserves.
No kidding.
But I asked him. I said, I used to always ask those guys all the time. Especially the bunch of guys down at Fort Hood that used to be in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
And they were in that downsize, got out, went in the Army. And I said, well, how was it, getting out and going in the Army? And they're like, dude, don't ask. Just don't ask. He said, man, oh my gosh. He said, he said, when I first got in there, he just wanted to choke out every guy he talked to. He said,
Yeah.
because they're just so lackadaisical, but yeah, but no, I always wanted to be a high school I want to be a history teacher and a coach because I love history.
Yeah.
And now I could be a substitute teacher now, and then get my teaching certificate. I'm 61 now, but I asked my wife now. I said, "Hey, could you see me being a teacher now?" And she goes, "No." She said, "No, yeah, I'll have no. You'll go to jail. No, you can't. We're not doing that." I said, "Well, how about a bus driver?" She goes, "Oh, hell no, no."
Oh,
She goes, "No, I think you're good just right where you're at." But oh man, it was just just
wow.
so many things up and down, and just talking to people. And I guess the biggest thing is it, when I got stationed in Yuma, Arizona.
Mhm.
This was in '88. This old I was sitting there with my two little kids and my ex-wife, and we were eating at I think it was either Burger King or Hardee's. Well, it was one of the fast food joints. And this
Yeah.
older guy came over and tapped me on the shoulder. And he said, "Are you in the Marine Corps?" And I said, "Yes, sir." He goes, "I was in the Marine Corps a long time ago." And he was sitting there with his little wife there, and they were older couple.
Mhm.
And he goes, "You know who was in my battalion?" I said, "No, sir." He said, "Dan Daly."
Whoa. No kidding.
Dan Daly was in his battalion. He had joined the Marine Corps in 1918. And
Holy.
so he was in his 90s.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed talking to those guys as much as, they enjoy talking to us.
Hmm.
And I said, what was your base pay? He goes, if he said it was $10 a month, but if you shot expert, you got 15. And I was like, geez. And he goes, yeah. I said, what was your rent? He said it was $1.50 a month, and we had a 1-bedroom apartment. And I was
Wow.
like, and I was like, I just couldn't believe it. I mean, it was just, and he was talking about, what different stuff cost and everything. And shoot, when I first went in, I was a private. Every 2 weeks after taxes, I got a check for $177. And
Making
and I
big money.
tell, oh yeah. And we lived in open squad base, and
Yeah.
they gave you a meal ticket, So I mean, even though the chow sucked, but I mean, and at that time, uh, the closer it got to payday,
Hmm.
oh yeah, the longer you had to wait for chow,
Oh
and
yeah.
and then as soon as you got paid, now Chow Hall was a ghost town.
Hmm.
And but oh yeah, near the end of the month though, it was baked chicken, fried chicken. Did you ever go on ship?
I never, nope, never went on ship.
No. tell you on ship, the farther away you got from port, the crappier the food got. But man, if you're in port, or if you're within 50 miles of of land,
Yeah.
you couldn't get rid of your trash. You'd
Oh
have
yeah.
to wait. You had to be 50 miles out, and then they just chucked anything
Oh
overboard.
wow.
Oh, mattresses. I mean, old crap. They just throw it off the ship.
No kidding.
But oh yeah, I was on. Well, the first two ships I was on were flat bottom boats. They were LSTs. They were still using them in. Well, they first started using LSTs World War II,
Mm-hmm.
and then they were still using Vietnam. And you remember seeing them where they climbed down the cargo nets to
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
the flat Mike boats. We
Yep.
still did that in the early '80s.
Oh, no kidding.
Oh yeah, and
Wow.
we were doing operations off Ken Blue Beach in Okinawa was one of them, and
Mm-hmm.
then Red Beach down San Diego, and I'd never gotten seasick in my life till we got on one of the Mike boats, and oh my gosh, because we had 20-foot swells, and it was just horrible, and everybody blowing chunks on it, and oh my gosh,
Yeah, that's
but
got to be the
yeah,
worst. Is
and then
puking like
well,
on ship. Mm.
did you ever watch? And we were in the we I don't I don't know, you probably seen the flat like they call them casket racks. They're just flat board deals with the
Yeah.
little pad on it. Well, on the LSTs, they're hammock racks, and
Okay.
there's five. And if
Oh
the
wow.
guy over you, if he's a big guy, and you get up in your rack, I mean, it's like right there, a couple inches over your face, and you ain't
Whoa.
turning over in your sleep. So, however you're getting in that hammock, that is the way you're going to stay.
Oh my
And
gosh.
oh man, it was so funny, but oh, it sucked. But yeah, as soon as I got on the ship, they said Wiggs mess duty. I mean, the first 6 months I spent 162 days on mess duty. As soon as I got to my battalion, he said, "Which one of you is Wiggs?" Because it was a private. He said, yeah, go on over to the chow hall. I said, Sergeant, I already ate. He goes, bitch, you ain't going over there to eat. You're going over there to work. I mean, because back then, I mean, my son, when he got in, I mean, you'd still work pot shack, freaking scullery, all that,
Yeah.
just like it was in boot camp. And then my youngest son, he goes, yeah, man, I got mess duty. I said, what are you working in, the scullery or the pot shack? He goes, what? No, I checked the IDs. I'm like, you guys don't work in no, they hire civilians to do that.
They do that. Yeah. A lot
I'm
of
like,
civil.
you gotta be kidding me. But yeah, in some ways it's gotten easier. In some ways, I guess it stayed the same.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, some of that stuff you just sat back and laugh. I mean, Somalia sucked,
Mm-hmm.
but now you look back, it's funnier than hell then. But about like recruiting duty. I mean, right
Yep.
when it was happening, it sucked. But no, other than that, you shoot, it's to the point of it's funnier than shit now. But I shoot, I still got all my LESs from when I was a private in a
Do you
book
really?
downstairs. Yeah, book
Wow.
downstairs in my basement. But yeah, it's
That's
some
wild.
some freaking crazy times.
So,
Mhm.
if you think back over your career and everywhere you went, everything you did, what advice do you have for anybody that's either one going to join up or two already in and is going through their career? What advice would you have for them?
Well, the biggest thing I would tell guys is, especially when you're in boot camp, take risks. I mean, because I was I went to boot camp as a private, and I was picked up as a squad leader, but then I was getting thrashed for my squad screwing up as well as I was getting thrashed for my own self screwing up. So I
Mm-hmm.
said, screw this. So what I did was I just kept screwing up to the point where they fired me. I wish I never would have done that because I'd have graduated as a PFC. But if people that are thinking about going in the Marine Corps, I just tell them, pick a job that you're probably never going to do for the rest of your life because you may get burned out, after if you do a certain length of time in the Marine Corps. But then also go and see and do some stuff you ain't never going to do again.
Right.
Because when you get out, you go back home and everything, and no matter where the hell you're from, chances are you're probably not going to get up and be bouncing across friggin' Europe or Asia or any place else, And I mean, I really left Missouri my whole life, and then that's the reason I wanted to go see stuff. But I tell guys when you get in the Marine Corps as you progress, I tell leadership. You're going to take some from this guy and some from this guy's style and some from but the majority of it comes from yourself. Never stop trying to make sure you take care of the job first, and you got to take care of your troops that helps you take care of the job.
Yeah.
Because I knew a lot of guys that and I know in the Marine Corps, they ever ask you on meritorious boards, what's the most important leadership trait? I mean, it's completion of the mission. But if you don't take care of the people that help you take care of the job, it ain't gonna get done. You can have all the drive in the world, you can't do everything.
That's right.
And that's the reason at the end. I mean, like I said, I don't know, and you probably know a lot more about it than I do, but it got to that point where staff NCOs were more worried about themselves and their own career than they was worrying about taking care of the troops. And that's the reason in a lot of ways, in some ways I felt bad that I was retiring. And that's one thing I tell you, once you put in, I don't know how it was with your MLS, but as soon as you put in for retirement, for the Marine Corps, you use a piece of crap. Oh, you're quitting on us. Just stand over there. I'm like, dude, I've given you guys over 20 years. And they said, we don't care. You're quitting on us. And it was like, you're good as long as you're on it. Man, as soon as it's your time to go, oh, no, you're a piece of crap. But no, that's why I took pride in being able to have my troops and I could take care of them the way I wanted. And but not everybody looks at it that way,
Yeah, that's true.
But and tell you the truth, it's what you make of it. I trust me. I used to tell my son all the time. I said, you can know the rules, but you got to learn how to play the game. If you don't know, if you're not open to the point of learning how to play the game, you ain't never going to make it in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
I said, and the sooner you learn how to play the game, the easier it gets. And because I mean, we knew in the grunts, no matter how crappy of a day you were going to have, or because they used to, play mind games with you, especially when you're on float over in Okie. I mean, where are you going to go? Ain't like you're going UA. Well, you got a canoe. And back then, nobody had passports, so it ain't like it's not like you're hopping a plane and flying out of there. I mean, you just have to learn how to play the game.
Yeah.
And maybe that was made it easier for us because we learned to play it. But I was glad I went in the grunts first, and then went from that point going forward on that aspect. And I tell guys, if they're transitioning to step out, make sure you get all your ducks in a row before you get out. I mean, make a plan for best case scenario, worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Because if it's best case scenario, you can deal with that. Worst case scenario, if you don't plan for that, that's where it bites you in the ass.
Oh yeah.
Because you need to look at a job that you like to do, something you like to do, and then within that career field, look at a job that you're actually going to get paid. money to me is really not a big deal. As long as I
Mhm.
can take care of my family and I got a roof over my head, clothes on my back, I'm good.
Mhm.
But there's some guys, everybody's got a button. And that's when these guys that are senior leadership, whenever they get out, they got to learn that out here too. Everybody's got a button. And then you
Mhm.
need to find out what that button is, and then and use that to motivate the people. Out here, corporate America, what I've learned is corporate America is they're to the point of they're more worried about just making as much money or being
Yeah.
successful and all this stuff. They ain't worried about who they got to step on their own people to get it to that point.
Very
And
true. Yeah.
and I used to tell people, even when I talked to the active duty guys, I said, there's leadership management, which a lot of corporate America get those mixed up.
Mhm.
Leadership is my ability to motivate you to do the things that you don't want to do,
Yeah.
but in a manner that you make it your own. That's
Mhm.
leadership. And management, you just keeping an eye. It's like a bean counter.
Mhm.
You just keeping up. You're managing people. You're not leading people. You're managing people.
Yep.
But corporate America they can't disseminate from one to the other, and that's where you got to kind of, because every one of them's going to have to deal with the corporate people too.
Yeah.
And I've known some guys that could deal with them. Me myself, I really wasn't too good on them. And and I probably, if I should have kept my mouth shut a lot more times when I got out in civilian life than what I did. But man, if I had everything to do all over again, you know what? I've done it all the same,
Yeah.
because it's who I am today.
That's
It's
right.
molded me to what I want, what I am today. But that,
Very
and
good.
just the guys you want to keep up with, stay up with them. But
Yeah.
other than that, though, man, I probably
Hey.
running way too long and
Oh
talking
no,
too
you're
much.
fine. You're fine. Don't worry about that.
But
Rob, thanks for coming on. Thanks for reaching out and saying that you would be willing to come on and tell your story. It's a fantastic story. You've done a fantastic job. Retired as a gunny. You got to go out. You're running your own company now, which is a good deal. So thanks for what you did.
well, thanks for what you're doing. But yeah, if you ever get to the point where you're going to do a podcast of all past recruiters, I got some guys, boy, that could definitely give you some stories.
Well, I think we can make that happen for sure. I'll schedule it in sometime in the near future, and
There
I'll
you
reach
go.
out to you. So it'll be good.
Okay,
But
dope.
all
And
right.
you talk to your tell Valhalla people if they want some help on some of them plaques, man, I'll be more than happy to show them some of the stuff I've done,
Okay.
and I'll be more than happy to donate and send them wherever they want me to send them.
Okay.
So,
I'll reach out to
so
them and let them know. So give them
okay,
your contact info as well.
okay, man. I
Awesome. Hey,
appreciate it, brother.
don't go anywhere. Hold on just a second. But to all the listeners out there, just like Rob was saying, reach out to your buddies, check on them, see how they're doing, those types of things. And if you're out there struggling and need some help, you can always reach out to the VA. You can dial 988, press option 1. You can also text 838-255, or you can go to veteranscrisisline.net, click on that chat icon. Any of those options can be able to put you in contact with somebody that can help you out. But one veteran life lost is one too many. I care about you. Rob cares about you. The entire veteran community cares about you. So please reach out for help. With that, Rob, one last time, thanks for coming on. To all the listeners, stay motivated and check your socks.